Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is Monday morning. It is January 13th, 2014. This is Market Forecast brought to you by Options University. Butch Shorek here, and remember, access to this video is for educational and informational purposes only. Nothing contained in this video, website, or promotional material constitutes a promotion, recommendation, solicitation, or offer of any particular investment, security, or transaction. Options University provides educational services that are meant to teach you the risks and rewards of trading stocks and options, and we're not a service that tells you what to trade. We're not implying or guaranteeing any profit, and as always, do not trade with money that you cannot afford to lose. And we are officially into earnings season, as last week we had Alcoa, which many feel is the beginnings of earnings season. Let's see what effect it had on the SPX and the indexes as we take a look at the effect as earnings season is in a way. Looking at the Dow, NASDAQ, S&P 500, Russell 2000, we see that if we look at the week, we see one negative number on the Dow, and the rest are all in positive numbers, but not much of a gain for the week. Looking at the Dow, we see it was down 0.2%, NASDAQ up 1%, S&P 500 up 0.6%, and Russell 2000 up 0.7%. Looking at the year-to-date last year, we see pretty lofty numbers there as we look at the indexes as they carry forward. Let's take a look and see what is available to us as far as economic announcements to go with earnings season to provide the momentum that this market just seems to keep right on moving. As a matter of fact, world stocks rose towards a 6-year high last week, and the dollar and bond yield slipped as last week's U.S. jobs data strengthened the case for the Federal Reserve to keep interest rates lower for longer. And remember, there is one thing that really counts. Don't fight the Fed. Taking a look at economic announcements, we see that on Monday we have little or nothing going on Monday, January 13th. Looking at January 14th, Tuesday, we see that we have retail sales coming in at 8:30, seeing how the consumer is doing. Looking at import and export prices for last month and looking at business inventories at 10 o'clock. And then when we come into Wednesday, we got the all-important PPI, Empire Manufacturing Survey, coming out on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, every single Thursday, we have jobless claims for the previous week and CPI coming out at 8:30, again reflecting the general consumer. At 10 o'clock, we have the Philly Fed coming out, and we got Housing Market Index coming out at 10 a.m. on Thursday. So Thursday kind of loaded with data that could be of interest to us. As we come into Friday, January 17th, we got the housing starts at 8:30. We got industrial production at 9:15. And then we got consumer sentiment coming in at 9:55. So the week, as you noticed, has a bit of consumer-oriented reports coming out. And of course, those are the things that could have an effect on the market as we see what kind of strength the consumer has. Many people feel that it is the consumer that will lead us out into a stronger economy. Let's take a look at the SPX and see what our overall trend is. Looking at a 3-month chart, we see that the trend continues on up. S&P 500, the 200-day moving average continuing in upward fashion. The 30 still above the 50. And as we had our little pullback, we see that there was actually very little move in the market for the entire week as we turned around on Monday and just started climbing little by little, each day ending at the high of the day, showing the overall market. What are we headed for? We're headed for that previous high right around 1850. And let's take a little closer look at this index, the SPX, which remember are the country's strongest and the world's strongest 500 companies. So looking back 5 days, we see that we bottomed out on Monday and then we kept heading higher and higher and higher, and basically headed for that 1850, and then of course probably headed for our next breakout. Some kind of news will pop it out as we show strength in the overall market. And let's take a look next at the Dow. Looking at the Dow, we see that we had a bit of a pullback, but showing good relative strength. However, we noticed that we did not head up. We basically are consolidating at this level, trying to decide which way we're going to go. Are we going to go up or are we going to go down? Well, if we do go down, how far are we going to go? Well, you got the 30-day moving average sitting right there, the 50-day moving average sitting just above 16,000, and we certainly have support at this level of 16,250, which as we continue sideways, the 30-day moving average will be moving up to shortly. Notice this big old candlestick here as we saw that huge volume take place at the last Fed announcement. That is what's carrying the market at this point. Let's take a look at the tech index and see what the NASDAQ is doing as we see it almost reach new highs on Thursday. Found a little bit of resistance. We'll see whether we continue on up. With an inside day on Friday, so, we're in an area of flux, but remember, we're in earnings season, and earnings will have an effect on the overall market. Looking at the Russell 2000, let's take a look at that, and we see that, again, headed for the previous highs. We'll see whether we break up in a way and find a reason for us to head higher. Well, as the markets are heading up, where do we expect the VIX to go? Well, let's take a look and see what kind of fear there is in the market as we're seeing volatility basically level out between puts and calls, which we haven't seen in quite some time. And so for those of you that are option investors, this certainly has an effect on the way you handle things. Looking at the VIX, we see that the VIX is basically down around that 12 level again, as there seems to be very little fear in this contrarian indicator. Looking at bonds, we saw bonds finally pop out. We got actually a breakout in the bond market as we see on Friday it pop above that previous high, headed for, well, this next level back here, and then ultimately we'll see whether we get a little rally in bonds, which has been in a bear market for quite some time. Is there any flight to safety in gold? Well, let's take a look at the gold market and see what the gold's done. Basically down about 25% last year, and we see we had a little bit of a breakout on Friday, not on basically somewhere around average volume, and so we see the gold basically going sideways, running between this level and like so. So we'll see whether we find some resistance up there and watch gold roll over again, as there is very little fear in the market as the beat goes on, funded and fueled by the Fed. Let's take a look at the amount of volume we had last week, using as an indicator our ETF, the Spider, and we see that we basically had about average volume for the week as we went sideways with a little bit of gains every day, just climbing forward as the market just continues to churn along in this day of happiness brought about by Fed. All right, and then finally, let's take a look at financials. We'll look at XLF, our ETF for the financial market, and we see it at highs and continuing to move higher. And this is a healthy sign for us. When the market's led up by the financials, is one of those thoughts that it provides for us good stability in the market so far, no great fear coming forward. And there we go. Oil broke through that bottom and didn't spend much time down there. We'll see whether we get below $3 a gallon for gasoline, whether that'll happen or not. I haven't seen the prices go down that much as I look at the pump prices here in Florida. All right, so that's kind of the market as it took place during the last week, and looking at our different sectors by looking at our ETFs, and it's a pleasure having you been here. For those of you that are gold members, stick around, and we'll look at our stocks to watch that we've been following for quite some time. And for those of you that want to see more free videos from Options University, go to www.optionsuniversity.com/free gold. With that thought, this is Options University bringing you Market Forecast. This is Butch Shorak. It's Monday, January 13th, 2014. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. Gold members, stick around as we'll continue on our stocks to watch.